It's Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. I'm Greg Nibbler, and this is Digital Trends Live. And hello, everyone. Yes, indeed, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it, and let's let you know about some trending tech news right now. Since tech conventions aren't happening as they normally would, we're starting to see some interesting virtual events and showcases, including LG's new virtual room as part of IFA. Now, IFA is normally one of the world's largest tech conventions that happens every year about this time in Germany. It's basically the consumer electronics show of Europe with thousands of exhibitors and hundreds of thousands of attendees and a bunch of product launches. It's still taking place starting on September 3rd, but it's almost entirely gone virtual, and that's leading to some pretty interesting innovation. So LG has an approach by creating a virtual showroom that looks a lot like the overall booth experience you would normally expect from one of the biggest tech companies in the world. And it's available online so everyone can take a look at it. It features their big OLED display room that they usually have at CES with rollable and flexible OLED screens forming a giant changing video, usually showcasing dramatic nature scenes. You just imagine hundreds of people packed in the same room bumping into you, and it's almost like you're actually there. They also have different rooms showing their television releases. And LG is just one of the companies doing this. Samsung unveiled a virtual experience for their products, and IFA itself has a virtual show called IFA Extended Space that promises networking, videos, and all other kinds of things. We're covering all of the product releases, but I would highly encourage and recommend you to go check out some of these virtual events. We're living in weird times, but you also get access to something that normally you'd have to be in attendance to actually see. So check it all out at digitaltrends.com. All right, a new tool has been announced by Microsoft to help detect deepfake videos ahead of the upcoming United States presidential election. So they've been working on a series of software tools as part of their Defending Democracy program, which aims to combat disinformation and manipulated media to protect voting against interference during the election. Now, deepfake videos and images have increasingly become more sophisticated, so their new program, Microsoft Video Authenticator, aims to make it easier to detect these manipulated pieces of video by giving them a percentage score on whether something may be fake. Microsoft says it does this in real time, and it works by detecting the blending boundary of the deepfake and subtle fading or grayscale elements that might not be detectable by the human eye. They partnered with the AI Foundation, and the tool will initially only be available through its initiative called Reality Defender 2020, which will allow news outlets and political campaigns to submit video for authentication. Beyond that, they've also announced a tool for content producers as part of Microsoft Azure, which will allow them to place digital hashes and certificates in the metadata of videos. And there's a web extension that can read that metadata, let someone know with a high degree of accuracy who created a certain video. It's a lot of tools, and clearly with AI getting better at manipulating media, it's not going to be the end of deepfakes, but it's a start. And you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Have you ever looked at Twitter and wondered, why is that trending? Of course you have. We all have. According to Twitter, the phrase, "Why is this trending?" was tweeted over 500,000 times in 2019 alone, and now they're trying to be a little more transparent in answering that question. So to start, the trending section on Twitter is going to be adding a lot more context to the information display. If a topic is trending, you'll see pinned tweets to it that are representative of the discussions being had on the platform around it. Those pinned tweets will be determined in a couple of ways, partially by an algorithm and partially by human selections. They also said that the descriptions of the trending subject will all be written by humans and not artificial intelligence. This, of course, all leads to more transparency, but also it's to avoid the trending section from being taken over and hijacked by spam bots or by abusive behavior. So there's been a lot of examples of this happening, with prominent ones being QAnon followers with blatantly false information trending, or state actors like Saudi Arabia, which had a huge bot army tweeting about the prince during the whole Bezos phone hacking scandal. I got some of those ones. The new representative tweets and subject explanations will start rolling out in 17 countries on both iOS and Android, so expect to see those popping up in your feed soon. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. And finally, we have a date. The new season of The Mandalorian is premiering on Disney Plus on October 30th, but they didn't give us a trailer yet. So there's, of course, a number of theories swirling around about why we haven't been given a trailer. The date's great, but one of the big theories is that maybe Disney just doesn't need to put one out to get everyone to watch it. So originally, the Season 2 trailer was supposed to debut during the NBA playoffs at halftime of the Trailblazers-Lakers Game 2, but that came and went with nothing, and since then it seems to just not be happening. Now we do know, of course, that Giancarlo Esposito will be featured prominently as Moff Gideon with a darksaber, and a bunch of actors from the first season have been hired back, but it may be that Disney makes us wait until October 30th to see any new footage, and if that's the case, so be it. Or maybe they surprise us with the trailer today. Who knows? You can follow along with all of it, though, at digitaltrends.com. Also, I wanted to let you know about a special deal going on right now for the HP Never Stop 1202W laser tank printer. Now, normally, this is a $330 printer, but there's a promo going on right now until September 5th that takes $30 off of it, making it only $300. On top of that, you can enter now for a chance to win one. So this is the kind of printer that's really beneficial for all of us who have set up home offices and don't have access to that company printer for reports and invoices and estimates and all of that. You can print up to 2,500 pages worth of original HP toner, and it only costs $16 to refill the toner tank versus normally $40 to $60 per ink cartridge. So again, the deal is for $300 right now. That's $30 off. And if you click the link below to either buy it, you can also enter in the contest to win an HP Never Stop 1202W laser tank printer of your own. Definitely a good deal there. All right, we keep you up to date on everything that's going on in the world of technology, and that includes some new announcements from NVIDIA. And to talk about that, joining us, we have Mr. Luke Larson to kind of walk through what was announced, what it means. And Luke, hello, good to see you. And so tell us about this. What's NVIDIA doing?
Yeah, some pretty exciting stuff. So yesterday we had a big event from NVIDIA, obviously online, but the big news here are 3 new graphics cards. And graphics card launches, we get them kind of all the time, but every few years there are big ones. And this is a really big launch. So basically we're getting the RTX 3080, the RTX 3070, and we'll get to it later, but the RTX 3090, which is where things get really crazy. But the 3080 and the 3070 are the ones that are going to be actual graphics cards that people will probably go out and buy and put in their desktops and in their gaming systems. And even though these are the same price as they were in the previous generation, the 2080, 2070, so they are $699 and $499, still expensive cards. But these things are way, way more powerful than the previous generation. And it's really cool to see, a generational leap that's like way more than normal and way more than I even expected. So just to give you kind of an idea of what kind of performance we're talking about, in the previous generation, the most powerful card was the RTX 2080 Ti, and both of these new cards are significantly more powerful than that one. So it's like you got the top end of the last generation, and then the 3070, which isn't even the top end of this one, is way more powerful than that one. So it's kind of like really tipping the scales towards these new cards. So it's really great to see that kind of a leap in performance.
What is that going to allow you to do? So you're saying this big leap, like what kinds of things will people be able to do with this one that they couldn't do before?
Yeah, so the big thing is 4K gaming. It's something that people have been talking about forever, and even though we've been talking about it forever, it still isn't always really possible. And with these cards, NVIDIA is saying that you're going to be able to do 4K PC gaming at 60 frames per second consistently. And obviously that depends. That's going to vary game to game, and there's a lot of different factors to that. But that is an exciting thing to finally get to see, that you can game in complete 4K native resolution and hit those good frame rates. And I'm sure if you in different games, you'll even be able to go beyond that in 4K. So that is really exciting for the average person, average PC gamer. You're going to be able to finally get to 4K.
So you go from the RTX 3070 and 3080, and then there's the next level. You mentioned 3090. So what does that bring to the table?
Yeah, and like I said, this is where things get really crazy. As you can see it there, it's just a huge graphics card. They call it the BFGPU, which is kind of silly, an NVIDIA thing. But it's just a massive graphics card, and here's what they're claiming. They're claiming that this RTX 3090 can play games at 8K at 60 frames per second. That's just insane, and they're not really able to do that natively, and they're not able to render that natively because that would be really crazy. But they did show a video of people playing in 8K, and they use some fancy AI, they call it DLSS, to actually boost up those the resolution to 8K. But even just the idea of playing in 8K is kind of crazy, and apparently this 3090 can actually do it.
Wow. So these are the three new cards from NVIDIA. And then, of course, we'll probably see whatever kind of response everybody else comes up with. But I know also one other thing is they all have HDMI 2.1 support, which is going to be huge for all those new TVs coming out.
Yeah, and that's where things get interesting because we're talking about PC gaming here, and NVIDIA doesn't have a presence on the console side of things. And we all know that we've got some consoles coming later this year, and those are powered by AMD. And a lot of these different features you can see how they clearly have to compete with what those consoles have claimed to do. 8K is one of them. As silly as that was, like when those consoles were first announced, 8K was the thing that was on the table. So it's no coincidence that NVIDIA is talking about 8K. And then HDMI 2.1 is a really cool feature because basically that's going to allow NVIDIA to compete with those consoles in terms of high refresh rates. So because of HDMI 2.1, it's just a port standard, but that's available on these new OLED TVs. So you can all of a sudden hook up your PC gaming system to your TV that has a high refresh rate, and then you can actually do that. You can actually get really smooth gaming in the same way that these new consoles are promising that we're going to get. So it's kind of leveling the playing field again, and console versus PC thing continues, and this pushes it one more step further.
It's definitely exciting, and I know we've got write-ups about all this too at Digital Trends, so people can kind of go into details about it, read more about what these are going to bring to the table. But always cool seeing more innovation, especially these big leaps forward like you were talking about, Luke. So as always, good to talk to you. Thank you, Luke Larson, for sharing all this details with us.
Thanks, Greg.
Luke, right here on Digital Trends Live. And again, we've got all that there. We've got a lot here on the show today, though, to continue on with. So coming up next, we have the star of a new Netflix series that's going to be debuting later on this week. It's called Away, and we have Atto Isando, who's going to be joining us to talk about his role as an astronaut going to Mars. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button and share the show. There is a new drama series debuting on Netflix on September 4th called Away, and it's all about the first international mission to send humans to Mars. And joining us now, we have an actor who portrays one of those said astronauts, Atto Isando. Atto, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I got to say this series is right up my alley just to begin with, but I want to talk to you about this. And, this journey to Mars that you and your other actors are taking, your other astronauts in this movie are taking, takes about 3 years. And I'm wondering for you as an actor, what does it take to get into the mindset of something like that, of being that isolated for that long?
Well, I thought I knew prior to COVID, right? But now I know because what you have to do is you have to give up the things that you're used to. And I'm experiencing right now not being able to sort of get on a plane and go see my parents in Ghana right now because they might as well be on Mars or they might as well be on Earth while I'm on Mars. So that isolated feeling that I thought that I could bring to the role, I now have way more sort of information on what that looks like.
That's an interesting viewpoint on that. Yeah, you're right. I guess we have all kind of been isolated to that extent.
Yeah.
When you're filming, yeah, I mean, when you're filming something like this, too, one of the big things is, of course, you're in space. There's the issues of gravity, and I just wonder, from a technical standpoint, what do you do to try to replicate that feeling?
Yeah, that's one of the things that drew me to the show, that we're actually going to try to get the physics right. And essentially, what everybody has seen in their in high school when you watched Peter Pan, and Peter Pan is flying around, he's basically being suspended by wires, and that's what we did on our show. We had to show up about 2 weeks prior to shooting to get in shape for being hauled up and down on wires. And that was a lot of hard work. I think that we're all sort of ready for our Cirque du Soleil performances if we need that. But it takes a lot of core work because, imagine we're trying to simulate zero gravity. So sometimes we're just hanging like this, suspended from our hips, but we have to also sort of deliver the lines as if we're not straining to within an inch of our life. So that was a lot of fun just to try to pull off. And seeing the show, I think we did a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things too that I know with this show, you mentioned, getting the physics right. I know that as part of the production, at least you worked with some actual astronauts to try to talk about what it would really be like in space. And maybe I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about what maybe some of the biggest lessons you learned were from working with them.
Sure. We got to work with Mike Massimino, who's just a star in himself. I mean, he came up to set once or twice, excuse me, and his insight was brilliant because I used to want to be an astronaut when I was a kid, and obviously I'm seeing people sort of floating around in space like superheroes, and that's the appeal. But he said, don't get it twisted. Even in zero gravity, especially in zero gravity, everything is hard. Everything you do is hard. You have to relearn how to do everything. And so he said, keep that in mind, even though you're being suspended by wires, all of this stuff, just going across the room is a hard thing because if you push off too hard, you're going to go flying, So that kind of insight gave me, made me glad that I'm not actually an astronaut, even though I have fantasies of being on Mars. That stuff is hard, man. It's really hard.
Well, I was going to say, talking about that and going into space, do you have any desire to go to space yourself?
Yeah, I mean, prior to this, I said, yeah, I could pull off 3 years and go to Mars because how incredible that would be. I don't think I could do 3 years, but I could definitely do a weekend on the moon. Like if we get to that level of technology where it can be like a first class trip and you get a mimosa on the way, and then you bring some beers and your boys and you hang out on the moon for a weekend with some beers, and then you fly right back. I'm totally in on that. But anything else, no way, man, no way.
I like the idea of beers on the moon. I'm totally in with that too. That sounds great. Well, for you two and for this series, I want to remind everybody, coming out September 4th is when everybody can watch it. What would you like people to take away from this series?
Well, I think, inadvertently, we've created a series that shows how important teamwork is in a diversity of ideas, in a diversity of disciplines. That's what you need to sort of, excuse me, overcome any human endeavor. And I think this show sort of illustrates what we need right now to battle COVID, to battle racism, to battle all the systemic stuff that we've got going right now. We need leadership, and we need teamwork, and we need a diversity of ideas. So I think that's what we've done with this show.
That's perfectly representative of that. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely diverse cast, everything that goes along with it. And I've watched part of it myself. It's fantastic. And Otto, I want to say thank you very much, for joining us here to talk about this. Really, really appreciate it. You take some time, and congratulations on this new show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a big fan of Digital Trends, so thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right, Otto Sando, right here on Digital Trends Live. Really, really appreciate him. Seriously, Away is great. September 4th, so watch it. You're gonna, especially if you're watching this show, you're really gonna love that show. So we've got more coming up though. This is Digital Trends Live, and up next we have TBD with Jess and Adrian. What are they gonna be talking about? I don't know. That's why it's TBD. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and as always, thank you for joining us. It's Wednesday, which means it's time for TBD. What is it about? I don't know. Let's find out from our hosts. Joining us, we have Adrian Warner and Jess Serba. Jess, to you first. Hello, how's it going?
Hello, Greg. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing great. And, of course, we have Adrian Warner. Hello, hello, Adrian.
Hello, Greg. How are you doing?
I know, I just realized I'm doing good. I'm repeating words already. So, hello. What are we talking about today, Adrian?
Well, we're going to be talking about the future of delivery. So we're calling this episode of TBD Takeout by Drone, because we're all imagining a future where we can get our pad thai flying through the sky. Should I?
Yeah.
Made up on the spot. So,
It was my fault.
Before we start this, Greg, I have to ask you, do you see a near future where you're getting your deliveries by drone?
I 100% want deliveries by drone. Like, the less contact, the better. As long as somebody can drop like a burrito off, like in my backyard, I am all for this.
Awesome. Well, we will get to that. So exciting news came out this week that the FAA granted Amazon the federal approval to operate its fleet of Prime Air delivery drones. So that's a really major milestone that's going to allow the company to expand its autonomous package delivery. And the company stated that they're going to use this approval to begin testing their autonomous drones. So the VP of Prime Air, David Carbon, actually put out a statement and said, we will continue to develop and refine our technology to fully integrate delivery drones into the airspace and work closely with FAA and other regulators around the world to realize our vision of 30-minute delivery, which this all makes sense when you put it together. It really fits in line with the company's initiative to get its members shipments as quickly as possible. You may, know already that since last year, Amazon has invested billions of dollars to transition just from 2-day Prime delivery to 1-day delivery. But let's go back to the drones. So you might be saying, hey, hasn't Amazon already been doing testing drones and rolling these out? Well, technically, yes. They actually began testing their delivery drones way back in 2013, which feels like a literal lifetime ago. And as of last year in August 2019, the company submitted the actual petition for FAA for the approval of those plans. And in its petition, Amazon said that deliveries are going to occur in areas with low population density, and the packages are going to weigh 5 pounds or less. So, there's not going to be super heavy packages flying through the sky, dropping and hitting things. Amazon would basically be granted the ability to carry this property outside of the drone operator's line of sight. And this FAA approval that the company received this past Monday is basically a major step forward in propelling them into the sky. Our writer on DT gets credit for that. That was a really great pun that I had to lift there. But just to be clear, this doesn't mean you're going to be seeing drones just yet. This just grants the ability to test them out. The actual clearance for trials is essentially adapted from the FAA safety rules for other commercial aircraft regulations. The one exception is that they're obviously bypassing anything around manned crew because the drones don't have, a crew on board. So, these aren't going to roll out. You're not going to be seeing them overhead in your city quite yet. But last year, Amazon did debut their new autonomous drone at their global AI machine learning conference, REMARS. So they do have a fleet ready. They're ready to go, and they're going to be carrying objects of up to 5 pounds within 30 minutes for Prime members eventually. However, this is all a really big step for Amazon, but they're not the only skin in the game. There's a couple other companies that are really big steps ahead of them. So I'm going to hand it over to Jess to talk about their competitors who are actually a little bit further down the line for seeing that burrito coming to your way.
We're all awaiting that burrito, which I will get to. So for sure, this certification isn't totally unique in the drone space so far. As Adrian mentioned, it's actually a certification for airline carriers called Part 135 that has been the FAA's requirement for these drone companies up to this point, which is to be treated as airlines. Plus, the drones can be flown out of sight, which really puts a damper on that whole far-reaching delivery thing that we're all searching for, right? So we have 2 companies so far that have achieved this certification, which are Google Wing and UPS. So back in April of 2019, Google Wing announced that it was the first drone delivery company to gain this air carrier certification to make commercial deliveries in the US, which they later launched in October. But then in early October, UPS announced that it was the first to get this air carrier certification. So what gives? Basically, while Google Wing was the first to get an in-part clearance of this, they were only cleared for a single pilot air carrier certification in April 2019, which is exciting, but basically means that they were only licensed for one pilot and not the whole company. So in fact, UPS was actually the first company to receive the standard Part 135 air carrier certification in whole to operate a drone aircraft, which was in September of 2019. That basically means there are no limits on the size or scope of operations. However, the operator must be granted authorization for each type of operation that they want to conduct. I will note too that just that same month, Google Wing did receive their standard Part 135 as well. UPS has focused its delivery so far on medical packages, while Wing is partnering more with FedEx and with Walgreens and a few small food delivery businesses or to deliver directly to homes in Christiansburg and Blacksburg, Virginia. And they do say they've seen a dramatic increase in the number of customers using the service during a pandemic. Finally, I do need to do a little Virginia Tech shout out. Go Hokies. I was only about 12 12 years too late to take part in this? Do the math or don't. I was actually reading about how back in 2016 they were delivering Chipotle burritos via drone to students. Now,
What?
it was a test at that time. Just demonstrations, and was confined to like a closed site. You actually had to go up and like order it and you could see it come. But let me just say, if my roommates and I could have had burritos delivered via drone to 108 Nottingham, Greg, I would have just called that the dream, wouldn't you? I know it is your dream, actually.
That is the dream. There's no need to develop any more tech beyond that. Like, that's the pinnacle.
That's it. We've outdone ourselves at that point.
All right, awesome. So soon enough, we will be able to have that, and that's all we'll need. But going beyond that, I know another part of TBD is, of course, Kick Stop It. And what is our product this week?
Well, since we're talking about the future, let's talk about futuristic toothpaste. Sure, why not? Our product for Kick Stop It is called Habit Toothpaste. And it's a toothpaste that is infused with a bunch of different supplements for your morning and for your evening routine. So there's one that you get for morning that has caffeine, B12, and vitamin D in it. And then there's another one for the evening that has melatonin, chamomile, and lavender in it. I feel like this is fun and futuristic, but I'm like, I can't get around the fact that you spit out your toothpaste when you're done with it. How much of that is really getting absorbed through your gums?
Exactly what I was thinking right there. I'm like, what is the real point of this? Because, I mean, you're not supposed to swallow this toothpaste, right?
I mean, I guess you could. It's vegan. It's I don't think it's that bad for you, but like, it's a little weird.
You guys all know I'm on board for this, right? You all saw that coming.
I kind of do.
You're on board.
I kind of saw this coming.
So, if you actually, there are forms of like melatonin you can take where you do actually put it under your tongue, your gums and like under your tongue. It's called sublingual absorption. It actually is a rapid absorption. So it's not like as soon as you're putting it in your mouth, it's absorbing. So it's not necessarily that you have to swallow it through your like digestive system. So the morning one also has like B12 and like vitamin D, and like something like 40% of adults in the US are vitamin D deficient. So if you can just be brushing your teeth, doing something you normally do, I mean, as long as it's like good quality supplements, then y'all, I'm on board. This
Are
is
you like a representative of this company?
No, I just I'm just saying.
You're getting a cut on the side.
I know the facts, and I'm on board.
All right, so kick stop it or kick start it.
Well, you know what I'm doing.
I guess I'm gonna kickstart it because I don't hate it. Like, I'm not against it. It is kind of silly to me, but it's it's not crazy expensive. On the Indiegogo fundraising page, it's like comes out to about like $7 a bottle, and I'd try something out for $7.
Yeah, that's not that much more than normal toothpaste. All right, you know what, Jess,
Greg's
you
on
sold
board.
me on it. I will kickstart this as well.
Although,
so
I have
I'm
to
done with
say,
my B12 toothpaste.
What if you accidentally take the wrong one?
That is the only concern.
Oh,
They need to be a little bit
I would 100%
more
do that.
different, and they need to be a little bit more different visually before I buy it.
Yes, 100% agree. All right, so there we go. We're kick-starting it across the board. And then, of course, to wrap out TBD, we've got some Charlie Cam.
We've got some Charlie Cam. We've got him in his little water treadmill.
Little recovery corg.
Charlie did have surgery a couple of weeks ago, and he is doing absolutely fantastic. So
Look at him.
He's getting back on track.
Good.
He looks slightly concerned there in his tank, but that is awesome. Well, as always, Jess, Adrian, another great edition of TBD, and I will talk to both of you very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
We're gonna get some burritos by drones. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is Digital Trends Live. We're live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I appreciate everybody who has tuned into this episode, but there are more episodes for you to watch, and that's what I want to emphasize. Like, hit that subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it. Join us here for all these tech news that we get to do, all the interviews. We keep you up to date on everything, even when it comes down to caffeine-infused toothpaste. It's a whole well-rounded show that you get right here with Digital Trends Live, so thanks for tuning in. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.